So as promised, we're going to have a look at this diesel heater, which I've just got for the van. It's a smaller type, so it should go and suit my purposes well. Like with all of them, we're going to go through and do some upgrades to it before we actually put it in service. So part of that's going to be changing the fuel lines for the hard nylon style, and I bought a kit for that. I'm also going to be sound deadening the inside of the chassis a little bit to help with noise, and possibly on the pump as well, depending on how that's mounted. We'll have a look at that in a second. I've got a box of Jubilee clips to replace any Jubilee clips that come with the kit because they're traditionally not very good. Just a few basic tools really, so a couple of Stanley knives, wire strippers, side cutters, screwdrivers. I've got a pack of small socket set there, and I've got some conduit and some three-way flex to extend the cable from the controller. One thing I didn't have there on my list is, you can see I've got a basic fuel line upgrade kit, sort of standard thing you get on Amazon or eBay for around £10. So that's what we'll be doing internally. Right, so this one's slightly different. There's no clasps on the side. It seems to be screws all the way around. I shall change the camera around and get the screws off, and let's have a look. Okay, first job is to get these screws out from all the way around. Try and do this one-handed. There looks to be 12 screws in total. So I'll whiz these out, lift the cover off. I'll come back to you in a moment. Right, so that's all the screws out now, all 12, and I've just spun the cap off the fuel tank as well to clear it. I think it's like most of them. When you take them apart, it's all kind of very flimsy, but we pop the lid off and have a quick look around. So it all looks pretty standard fare from any of these style of heater. It says it's a 5 kilowatt one, but I got to believe most of them are all the same. Just going to turn it around so we can see it in the inside. Okay, with those 12 screws removed and the top off the fuel tank, you'll see it's pretty much standard fare for these units. You can see the squidgy green fuel pipe there, which we'll be replacing. And like with most of them, once you get the cover off, everything's a bit flimsy. Fuel tank, like I said, it's just all held in place by the case basically. It doesn't look too bad. It's rated at 5 kilowatts, but I think all of them are pretty much the same. So I think the first job we'll do is maybe look at the inside of the case itself and try to add some sound deadening and stuff into there. The actual pump is in a vertical position and looks like it's got a rubber mount. So we'll see if we can improve, maybe give that some more isolation. But first job, yeah, we'll insulate the inside of the case first. So the inside of the case there is pretty basic. It's just 2 bolts where the handle comes through at the top. So what I'm going to be using for this are these closed cell foam pads, sort of thing you use for speaker dampening inside of doors, etc, etc. So I'm going to cut them down with a pair of scissors, just the right side. So I'm going to make sure I don't cover up any of these standard holes that are supposed to be here. So I'll cut them down to size and put them in, and hopefully that should give us a bit more sound insulation when the unit is running. Okay, so I've got that cut and stuck on there. You can see the insulation panels in there. Hopefully they'll provide a bit of sound dampening. You never know. You've noticed I've stayed away from the extreme edges here, just so I don't impede the case going back on. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure how much difference this will make. Hopefully it will dampen the noise down a little bit. I've got some offcuts left over, bits and bobs, and I'll probably use those to try and dampen the pump slightly a bit more, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right, so inspecting the cable that leads to the LCD panel at the front, you can see it just pokes through the top of the unit and goes out. Now I want to extend that cable because I'd like to pass this through into the sort of living area away from the actual unit itself. So looking at it, I think the best thing to do, see there's this big plug here, is to actually cut the connector this side, possibly halfway, and then use some 3-core cable just to extend that out. That will give me, you know, 1.5 meters or so away from the unit. It'll give me a few more options with mounting the actual LCD panel in the way I want to. So I think that's probably going to be the way to do it. So I'm going to cut that off now and make a join, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I found some standard 3-core flex that I wasn't using up in the garage. What I've done is strip away the insulation, so I'm just left with the conductor wires. Now the colours are slightly different to the plug one, but that's not going to be a problem. They're pretty much the same. Black as the earth on the pump thing. When I use the actual earth coloured cable, or UK earth coloured cable for that. So here's the plug, as I said. I fed it back through, and I'm going to cut it about in the middle and then strip each end and then extend that wire. You see the wires there, red, black and blue from the pump side. I've now chopped that off. So I'm just going to trim these up. Ready? So those 3 ready to go. And we're just going to do the same on the control panel wires, obviously the corresponding colours. So I'll just snip them up and then we'll move to the next stage. And we'll also be stripping the 3-core flex that I removed from the insulation earlier. And then we'll be ready to go. So now we've got the wire all separated and trimmed, ready to be lengthened. You could use anything you like here at this point, but I'm going to be using these single strand Wago connectors. They're inline. They just give you a really secure connection on there. Like I said, you could use something else, bullet connectors, crimps, or you could resolder them. But I'm going to use these. The fact that you're able to disconnect them really easily is a bonus. And the other thing is, actually, once you've spaced in or allowed for the distance of the actual inline connector, I'm probably going to get another 20 centimeters or so of actual cable length because of that. So I'm going to join all those up, and I'll show you that in a moment. Right, so I've made myself a little patch loom there out of the 3-core flex. Just wrapped it in insulation tape to protect it. Now in my installation, I'm going to be unscrewing this mounting panel and mounting this in the van with a hole behind it to run these cables through that wall and then into my long cable. So I won't be keeping any of the extended cable inside of the chassis, but I'm going to put it all back together and continuity test it just to make sure I haven't made any mistakes and it's all going to work. But when it comes time to installation, I'll be able to pop these Wagos out, drill a hole for the faceplate, pass the wires through, and then do the install properly, and it all should be good. Okay, so I've passed the new loom through the front of the unit. As you can see, giving myself a tail there to connect back to the standard 3-pin connector for the LCD panel. So what I'm going to do now, I just put some Wagos on the end. If you've not used Wagos before, you flip up the latches, and then these are in line, so slide that over the end of the cable, make sure that's down securely, and actually you can pull pretty hard on that, that's not going anywhere. So just do that with the other wires a moment. I said all the way in, latch down tight, that's not going anywhere. It always pays with these to have a little bit of length exposed in the conductor, just so they grip nice and tight. And then just pop the third one in. Excellent. And they see the back there, you don't want any conductor exposed from the back there. But these grip on really tight, you can pull these quite hard and they won't come off. So what I'll do now is connect up the other piece back to where we were, so the bit I cut off earlier on, to connect back to the unit. So the colours are different, but what we're going to go with is basically like a standard UK arrangement. So we're going to go the blue to the blue, same thing again, clip it down. That connection is nice and solid. The red, I think I'll have a bit more wire exposed for that one. So I'll just do that one moment. Get the tool. It's better. I'll just give them a twist as well to make sure. So we're going to go red to brown. So let's get another twist. Insert in again. That's latched in now. And the black on here will go to the UK Earth coloured wire. As I said earlier, so do that quick twist. Oop, flip up the lever. Insert to the back of the connector. Clamp shut. Those are super solid now. I'll probably tape these to stop them making noise inside the cabinet in a minute. But before all that, I need to do the other end. And then we need to continuity test. Okay, definitely not the prettiest in the world, but what I've used there is the little detent in the fuel tank, and just popped the Wagos into that hole and just secured it with some tape. I don't want those rattling against the side of the case and making an unseemly noise. I mean, they're not going to fail or go wrong, but I just don't want to make any more annoyed noises because I'm trying to quieten it down. And the original connector, as I said, I've just tucked back in just under the pump there, so well clear of where the actual casing is going to come. So now I've got a nice long cable coming out of the front of the unit and all the way here. So all that remains is I need to connect up the actual face panel again, and it should hopefully work. And just before wrapping these up for the final time, I forgot to film me doing the continuity test, which is just a test you can do with your multimeter. If you look it up, you should be able to see it. But now you can see, if I take it back to the beginning, the actual original plug is in behind the pump, behind the fuel tank now, out of the way. Here's my 3 Wagos. I used to use this 3-core flex to extend that around. That's a nice and snug next to the tank, so hopefully it won't rattle and bang next to it. And then if you come out now, you come out the front of the unit, follow the flex down, and I'm about to tape these all up so they're not exposed anymore, down to the unit. So that gives me quite a distance to be able to mount the unit. Mount the LCD display away from the unit where I want it to. So I'll just wrap up those final bits of the Wago there, and that'll be that part done. Okay, so now we're going to turn our attention to the fuel line. It's got the standard issue Chinese diesel heater, a kind of squishy green plastic one. I've just unplugged the electrical connector for the pump just to give me better access to that. And this pipe runs down the unit underneath, and I'll flip over in a minute and show you, but that's where the inlet, the fuel inlet, ends up. So what we're going to do is replace that with a nylon kit with some push-on rubber hoses and some proper clamps. So I'll just get that stripped off, and then we'll do that. I've got the unit on its side now. I've taken this pipe from the top of the pump you see me do a minute ago, and it follows in underneath through there and into the fuel inlet at the bottom. So it's quite a short piece of pipe, it should be pretty easy to do. So I'll whip that off and then replace it. As I mentioned, I'm using one of these upgrade kits you can get from eBay or Amazon for about £9–10. There's a filter in there as well, which I'm going to pop in as well. So just push this on just to see where we're going. I've got a nice big gap here, which I think it might be where I install the fuel filter. So I'm going to come up through the bracket down here where it was going before and have the fuel filter in this area. I just pushing these poly pipes into the rubber pipes. It's quite tight, so a little bit of soap or something, very liquid or dishwasher or whatever, something slightly slippery should help you get those in place. Okay, in summary, so just to sum up what we've done, I've replaced the green fuel hose you see there, put a loop in there. It bends a little tight, but I think it's okay. I've added the addition of the fuel filter in beside the burner there. If you notice, I've just added some offcuts of that sound insulation there, just to stop those pipes tapping against any of those clips tapping against anything. And this is the top fuel pipe going over to the fuel pump. Now this will just sit in there nicely when the lid is back on. Okay, just in summary, we'll just whip over what we did. It's all back together now. So we've added some insulation and some sound deadening into the inside of the cabinet. We've also rerun the fuel line with a stiffer nylon fuel line from a fuel line kit. We've extended out the cable on the LCD panel, which, as you can see, gives us quite a bit more length on that. Now, I'm not actually putting this in and firing it up at the moment. I'll do that follow-up when I actually do that. The casing was a little bit stuck to get back on with the sound deadening on. However, I think it's going to be worth it. But I'll run it up, give it a try and see how we go. But yeah, hopefully that was it until there's an update one. So thanks for watching. See you next time.